name's Katie Amos. I'm Local Studies Lead for Reading Central Library. Welcome to this year's film for Heritage Open Day on the theme of Creativity Unwrapped. Now, in last year's film we had a look at William Henry Fox Talbot, a local photographer, and one of his contemporaries was a chap called George Lovejoy. He was a bookseller and stationer and ran the Southern Counties Library in Reading, just down on London Street. Although he wasn't directly creative himself, he was a correspondent with a great number of people, including local authoress Mary Russell Mitford and people like Charles Dickens and William Thackeray. And we have a number of photographs of him, and he looks a lovely twinkly gentleman. One of the things that he did was to collect a large number of documents, posters, political documents, letters, leaflets, tickets and all sorts, which he created a number of scrapbooks for, and we have those in the library here, and they're an amazing collection to look through. Now, as I say, one of his correspondents was Mary Russell Mitford. She lived out in 3 Mile Cross, although her original home, which you can find today on London Road and with a blue plaque, is in the heart of Reading. Now, she wrote a number of books and poems and plays and all sorts of things, but she has quite an interesting start to life. In 1797, when she was 10 years old, she bought a lottery ticket. Obviously things were a little bit different back then, on behalf of her father, and she won £20,000, which was an unimaginable sum back then. However, her father was a bit of a spendthrift and went through the money quite quickly, and 20 years later she turned to writing to actually help support her family, and she was very successful at it. One of the people that she corresponded with was a poet called Elizabeth Barrett Browning, and Elizabeth Barrett Browning had a dog called Flush, which was actually a present from Mary Russell Mitford. And would you believe the author Virginia Woolf actually wrote a biography of Flush the dog. Another local author is Elizabeth Taylor, no, not the actress, another lady. She grew up in Reading when she was Betty Coles, and we have a number of photographs from her childhood. She went to Leopold School and then to Abbey School and later became a librarian. But she's better known for writing her novels, some of which feature aspects of Reading that you might recognise. I think Reading Prison's in there somewhere. And as I say, we've got a number of photographs of her childhood and also, of course, some of her books in our collection too. Those two weren't the only writers from the local area. We have a book actually called Walks with Writers, which allows you to take a stroll around areas connected with other local authors, such as Jane Austen, who went to Abbey School, the poet Alexander Pope, who lived in Binfield for some time, of course Oscar Wilde, who was imprisoned at Reading Abbey, and of course Kenneth Grahame, who's best known for Wind in the Willows. He grew up as a child in Cookham and died in Pangbourne, and we've got both the Walks with Writers books plus lots of other information on those authors too. Another Cookham resident was the artist Stanley Spencer, who's obviously very well known, and we have a number of books about him here too. Somewhere that could be considered homes of creativity are places like theatres and cinemas, and Reading's had a number of these over the years, one of which used to be at the bottom of London Street, which I've already mentioned, and the place is still there today, although it's now a hotel and restaurant called 1843, giving an idea of when the building was opened. Started out as a theatre called the Theatre Royal, the New Hall, Everyman Theatre. It also operated for a time as a primitive Methodist church, and various people have performed there, including, as mentioned earlier, Charles Dickens. In fact, Charles Dickens was asked at actually one point to become an MP for Reading, which is a bit of a shame that he didn't. Art has also played a very important part in Reading's history, and we've got a great history of artists, people like the Havell family, right up into modern times, and people like Banksy, whose artwork features on the side of Reading Prison. The Havell family, there were actually 7 members of them involved in art and artworks. They created a huge body of work. One of them was involved in an author called Audubon and his book on birds of America, which is fabulously illustrated, and we're lucky to have a copy of that in the library collection. One of them was even drawing master for Reading School and bringing on another generation of talent within the art community. Somebody else well known for artwork is George Blackall Symonds, a member of the famous brewing family in town, which is partly responsible for one of the B's in the 3 B's, that's beer, biscuits and bulbs. and for creating the fabulous statue of the Maywand lion in the middle of the Forbury Gardens. What you may not know is that another of his sculptures is able to be seen a little bit further away from Reading in New York Central Park, and it's a piece called The Falconer. Something else that's become quite a feature of the town is the Black History mural at the side of the IDR on the wall of the old Central Club. It's become quite a landmark, and it features a number of members of the black community throughout history, and the library has not only photographs of the mural but information about all of the different people that you can see there. They range from people like Malcolm X to Akhenaten and many more. Some of them more local, but some of them quite sort of world-renowned figures. Something that's come up a lot more recently are more modern artworks. So I've mentioned Banksy, but there's also another local street artist called Peachy whose works pop up around the town. And there's also lots of more modern sculptures and murals. There's one for Sue Ryder on the side of the Oracle, for example, and another one illustrating the beginning of the Camino Trail in Reading, which is on the side of Haslam's in Friar Street. We also have a new piece of artwork down by the Oracle, the Armoured Heart, which features blades handed in a knife amnesty. So it's standing as a symbol against violence amongst the community. So it's quite a powerful piece. The library has its own gallery space up on the second floor where you're able to come and view exhibits by local artists, and this is proving to be quite a popular thing for people to do. So we've discussed lots of things like books and photographs today, which is something that you would probably expect to find in a library. What you might not expect to find so much these days is tucked away in our strong room, and that's a small collection of vinyl records. Over the years, organisations such as the local Phoenix Choir and instruments like the Father Willis organ in the Town Hall have all been recorded and saved on vinyl records, which we have here in our collection. They're not available generally, but just as a special treat today, we've got one of them to play out for this film for you. The film today has only just touched on a small aspect of the library stock and things that we have here, plus very few of the creatives that the town has produced, either in an amateur or professional capacity over the years. But please do use our library catalogue to explore further, pop into the library and see what we have here. And I'd like to say thank you to all the library staff and managers here today and everybody connected with putting this film together. Thank you.